Being originally from Iraq and being part of an Iraqi community, I could easily relate to refugees and the struggles that they face. I felt obliged to help them. In their faces, I could see the stories of many people I had already met. The struggle, the patience, the hopelessness in their eyes, traveling through entire countries just to try and find a new home.
Welcome back. Thousands of people are rallying across Europe this weekend, pushing leaders to do more in the face of an influx of migrants pouring into the West from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. Almost 400,000 have already braved the journey by land and by sea to seek safe haven in Austria, Germany, and other countries. You've been covering this refugee crisis for years. You've been covering what has happened in Syria and how it has spread to other countries. Why do you think it seems to be breaking through now?
Well, I think right now it's difficult to ignore for the Western world to try to turn its back on what's happening, because the Syria and Iraq crises, and Afghanistan for that matter, have literally made their way all the way through Europe and deeper into Western Europe. You can't ignore scenes like this anymore, because this is not something that is isolated. This is something that is happening on a daily basis. Thousands are making this trek in what are now absolutely miserable conditions. Parents, you see, they're trying to shield their children as best they can. It is pouring rain and there is very little shelter here. In fact, the only sort of assistance that you will see in a place like this is thanks to volunteers. And when this is happening in Europe, Europe can no longer ignore what is taking place.
My name is Ali. I was born in 1981 in London. The same year my parents had just arrived from Iraq. And the year before that, in 1980, the Iran-Iraq war just kicked off. So many Iraqis were looking for any opportunity to get out, and my parents found one. Being originally from Iraq and having an Iraqi community around you, you begin to appreciate, or you just take for granted, the fact that you are not inherently from Britain. I was aware of the fact that I am not indigenously English or British, and I could relate to those who were abroad. To see the actual inhumanity that is being displayed in front of our eyes through the media, despite what agenda the media may have, you cannot deny the events that are happening. And my wife and I felt very, very moved by the series of incidents, some of the images being circulated, and that made us want to act. In reality, we should have acted a long time before. It took shocking images to actually make us move. So I take no pride in everything that we've done. It should have been done a long time ago, but better late than never, I guess. In a couple of hours, in a few hours' time, we're going to be loading these vans. We've got 3 vans waiting. We will pack the vans with all this stuff, and then 6 a.m. tomorrow morning we'll be heading off. 6 a.m. arrive at Dover probably around 7:30, and then cross the channel, and then after that 18 hours straight drive. Well, we'll try and make it as straight and as quickly as possible. All the way to Roszke on the border between Hungary and Serbia. We'll be there for hopefully 2 days. And we will be delivering this much needed supplies, as well as hopefully donations from others to the refugees. Nobody knows what's going to happen until we actually get there. We can all theorize, rationalize. We won't know anything until we get there. For the last 2 days, today and yesterday, we've had teams of volunteers who've kindly come and arranged all this stuff, packed everything, got rid of the rubbish, and sorted everything either in boxes or in vacuum bags or in plastic bin bags. Many people who have offered to donate, we don't even know them. We don't know where they're from. We don't know really their cultural background. There have been Muslims, there have been non-Muslims as well who've donated. There have been non-Muslims who've come to help. There have been Muslims who've come to help. The nature of the whole operation involves uncertainties. I may plan something right now, but when we arrive in Roszke, between the border of Hungary and Serbia, the situation can change completely.
It
was a long drive. It actually worked out to be 21 hours. In that time, of course, we were exhausted, but I was thinking that I was about to be thrown into a whole new world. Drove all the way through a bit of France, then we went into Belgium, crossed into Belgium, then went into Germany, cut all the way through Germany, Austria, and we arrived in Budapest last night at around 3:30 in the morning, I think it was. Yeah. We ended up driving about 21 hours in total. For the first time, I was actually witnessing refugees. These are people who have just fled their lands. I felt like they were completely unsettled, that they'd been shaken. It was quite clear in the expressions. A lot of them were actually kind of expressionless. And to me, that said a lot. For the first time, I'm seeing people who have been completely uprooted. And you know, they're totally unsettled.
Okay.
الطريق كان كثير صعب.
كيف طلعتم على اي طريق جيتوا تركيا او
طريق تركيا من ازمير.
من ازمير.
من ازمير طلعنا من البلد.
من البلد. اوكي. انتوا بس الاطفال؟
معي
جوزك كيف؟
بلدنا كان في حرب. حرب
ايش عندك رسالة للعالم، للبشرية، للكل؟
والله ما بعرف بدي اقول لك شيء. واحد يطلع من بلد كثير صعب. إذا ما كان فيها حرب ما كنا طلعنا. احنا بحالة الحرب لهيك
وصلنا صار لك ايش قد طالعه من سوريا؟
طبعا لنا اسبوعين يعني 3 اسابيع.
وحالكم مع اطفالك؟
بنتين عندهم جيران اثنين احنا معي.
اللي بس تعرف انه ليش عفتوا البلد؟
بسوريا من الحرب.
إذا
حياة صعبة. حياة صعبة صفت هنا. حرب.
Is it not hard to leave your home?
كله حرب. دمار دمار دمار.
صعبة عليكم عدتوا الوطن؟
يعني شيء غصب عنا لحتى
شو كان إحساسك؟ شو كان إحساسك لما
ايش فينك تجاوب على السؤال؟ بدنا نخلص ضد الارهاب، ضد النظام. يعني ما تعبنا. يعني عجبك وضع سوريا كلياتنا، شيء بألمانيا، شيء كل سوريا فضيت، ما بقدر اشتغل فيها ناس ليش ضل سوريا، شباب بدك شو بدك تعيش بجاه. شباب ما ضل، هيك عن المرتبة. أنا أبويا خلص.
I could see a whole display of tents of different colors, and you could see makeshift camps, tables. You saw kids playing about. You saw lots of people in a state of exhaustion. That's what I saw. What was I feeling? When I first started trying to do this whole campaign of going to Hungary and helping out, I realized how valuable, how little information I had, and at the same time how valuable information is. I desperately was looking for a contact somewhere out there in Hungary who can give us recommendation about where to go. We didn't want to go wherever the refugees were, we wanted to go somewhere where there's some sort of a system set up. Haidar, I got a call. Looks like we're here. So are we allowed to enter? How do we get to your collection point with all these vans and coaches? We have 2 vans, okay, and we need to get into the camp, but we have reached a road that is lined. So how do we get in? Before we got to the camp, I actually had no idea what to expect in terms of the site. All I knew was there was a volunteer there, Eva, and she was working with other volunteers. That was pretty much all I knew. Everything would be revealed when we got there. But prior to that, I just knew that there was some sort of a system there that was set up, and that's all I needed. Well, what was that name? What was that name again? When we got to Roszke camp, the first thing I saw at a much larger scale than at Budapest was like the field was covered in tents of all different sizes. That was just one part of it. The second part, the first thing I saw was like a whole long queue of refugees. They're all just standing, huddled up very closely and standing. I didn't realize what they were doing. It was later explained to me that they were queuing for a bus. And this bus was going to take them to the refugee camp, but the government-run refugee camp. As I walked through the camp, you see people just exhausted, dirty people. The place smelt either of body odor, of feet, because people had not washed or changed for weeks. I remember seeing, as I looked at the crowd, at the queue of people, at the queue of refugees waiting for the bus, it was quite shocking for me seeing very expressionless faces. Some faces were angry, but many faces were just expressionless, as if they were exhausted. When you live somewhere, you know you belong somewhere, and you can relate to your environment. But these people you could see stood out very, very clearly. And they were like, it's like you could see in their faces and in their body language and their exhaustion that they had nothing right now. They had absolutely nothing. And it's true they had nothing. By the time they had left their lands, by the time they had crossed the Mediterranean Sea, they crossed with only their clothes and their families.
با خدای جور شد صبر که خوشه برن جلو چش تو جور نمیشه قول در کی رو برم اینجا
برو صاف وایسا
صاف کنید
برو صاف وایسا قرآن اینجا
من يا مدينة عفريت من عفريت من بعد عفريت من على وين طلعت على تركيا؟
تركيا
اوكي كم يوم بقيت بتركيا؟
يوم الخميس
4 أيام كيف كان معكم طريق؟
والله بس بين تركيا صعب على اليخت
يعني الله عداها الحمد لله على سلامتكم
حوالي شيء 10 أيام لكن صار لنا بالطريق حوالي 4-5 أيام.
من تركيا لو
الطريق جيد لا بأس يعني في بعض الصعوبات بالمشي لكن أغلبه جيد. والله ما أحلى يعني الخيارين أحلاهما مرة إنك تترك بلدك والمكان اللي ربيت فيه وتطلع في أسباب قاهرة خلت الإنسان يطلع يعني ما طلع لي غاية ما مو محبة بالغربة وإن نترك أهلنا لا في سبب كثير قوي خلى الإنسان يطلع.
أسباب جبرتنا إنه نطلع كان صعب
يعني شوي هيك تعذبنا ببوردهم ونصيبين وكذابين ايه بعد الحمد لله نصبوا عليهم هون ب $5000 كثير زعلت لاني بيتي انخرب بيتي وقع
بيت بيرجع بيتعمر بس البلد لما واحد بعيد
ايه في بحرق القلب البلد مثلا بلدنا ولدنا فيها وطننا ترابنا اهلنا خلقنا عم تتقتل عم تنتصر يعني شيء بيحرق القلب شيء ببكي شيء بتبكي بتدخل على صلاح الدين تبكي تدخل على سكري البستان القصر الزهراء يا ويلي على الزهراء يا ويلي بعد اجى دورنا حلب الجديدة قصف اجانا كم صاروخ خرب لنا الدنيا
بابا امان بابا امان
13 يوم 14 يوم مشي.
شلون الطريق وياك؟
الطريق متعب.
تعبتوا؟
خطورة واحد يمشي على الله يعني يعبر في البحر يمشي كله خطر.
طريق متعب
يعني يجي
خليك مكان وروح يمشي هالمسافة هاي والخطر
أو 45 واحد فيش بتشوف.
شنو احساسك من لما عفت اخير نظرة على الاراضي السورية او لما عفت سوريا؟
الدمع بعيني
بلد انهار. شو تعمل؟ بلد انهار كله.
يعني أنا أحكي وياك هسه وأنا
يعني الشيء المحمي فقط الحكومة بس. خلص المحافظات
كلها راحت.
وانت تشوف عينك يعني على الشاشات.
صور لي هذا الوليد، صور لي اياه.
ولا يهمك ما راح يطلع لك الصور. ولا يهمك.
والله صار لي شي سنة ونص.
سنة ونص. وين قضيت السنة؟
سنة ونص قضيتها بتركيا.
شو المعاملة التركية معك؟
والله كويسة، يعني انه ما هي سيئة، ولكن بالفترة الأخيرة حسينا انه في نوع من الذل، صاروا يذلون يعني. مع انه يعني بالنسبة لجيران الأتراك ما قصروا معنا، بس الشعب هو اللي صار يعني شوي هيك صرنا ثقيلين عليهم.
تعبوا.
ايه طلعت نهار الأحد من شي 2 أيام.
لحالك لو معك؟
مع أهلي، نحن 25 شخص. 25 ومن بيناتهم هذا ابني عمره 2 شهر. طلعنا من تركيا بالبحر بالبلط اللي يسمونه رحلة الموت. احنا الحمد لله وصلنا اليونان، وصلتنا على اليونان، استقبلونا استقبال حافل، يعني الله يعطيهم العافية ما قصروا. طلعنا من اليونان على جزيرة مثليني، ورحنا قطعنا، سوينا خارطيات وقطعنا، وبعدها طلعنا بالباخرة وجينا على أثينا. من أثينا توجهنا على مقدونيا، يوم يعني الحمد لله ما طولنا، يعني الأمور مسهلة. طلعنا من مقدونيا على صربيا، ومن صربيا اجينا لهين، والأمور الحمد لله يعني عالم عم تمشي، ولكن الخوف هين يعني انه بس مشان البصم يعني. بس
مشان البصم.
إذا الله راد رايح على السويد يعني.
السويد عندك أحد؟
عندي جيراني هناك، يعني نصحوني انه السويد هناك بلد امان واستقرار ومستقبل لاطفالي ومستقبل الي لزوجتي. احساس حزن، يعني ما حد يحس بشيء الا يعني بشينا كثير. نحن بسوريا مكيفين كنا، يعني ما ناقصنا شيء، امان واستقرار وكل شيء. ويعني انا طالب جامعي ادب عربي سنة رابعة، طلع علي 3 مواد، بس بهالاحداث هاي ما عاد تقدر. يعني القلب صار يبكي على فراق سوريا، ونحن ما احنا فرحانين انه رايحين انه لجوء او شيء، بالعكس يا محلى الوطن، ولكن اوضاع صعبة، يعني اوضاع صعبة.
تنتظرون؟ وقفوا دموا. وين؟
والله رحلة موت. أتمنى ولا إنسان يخضع لهذه التجربة، لأنها من أسوأ التجارب اللي شفتها بحياتي. من أكثر الآلام اللي حسيتها في حياتي هي 17 طفل معنا في البنك. بأي لحظة أحس ما هم أولادي بس هم مسلمين وهم أطفال، يعني إنسانية وبين منهم مسيحيين. يعني بأي لحظة حسيت إنه بأي طفل إنه يوقع ويموت. يعني هذا كان في ألم شديد أنا بحياتي ما تحملت هذا الألم، في حياتي ما حسيت بهذا الألم إنه 17 طفل بأي لحظة يموت. مشان إيش؟ مشان مين؟ حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل بيك. حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
جيت صار لي تقريبا حوالي 7 أيام، صار لنا 4 أيام نايمين، ظل القص طريق لحد ما لان قالوا 33 سد الحدود مال الهنغارية واحنا بدنا نكملها. هسه احنا جايين.
طبيت هنغاريا انت؟
هسه طبيت هنغاريا.
طبيت ما عندك.
بس بدنا نشوف احنا قالوا
بودابست.
اي بس قالوا انه البصمة
زين.
وبعد بدنا نشوف البصمة شلون لانه بعيدا احنا ما نقول لك انه بعيدا عن الطائفية سنة وشيعة ولا بس هاي الكل يعرف انه صارت مشاكل العراق وماكو احد يعني يهتم انه بيك تعرف هذا الشيء.
زين وهسه انت وين تريد يا بلد تروح؟
انا بالنسبه يعني اذا اروح على بلجيكا لانه اهلي هناك يعني اخوتي
شنو اخير احساس لما طلعت من العراق او طلعت من بغداد؟ من درت وجهك ورحت؟ صح بانه كانت بيها مشاكل ومعاناه اللي الظروف اللي جبرتك تطلع من عندها. بس اكو واحد يقول لك عندك فد حنيه فد
أكيد.
حنان لوطنك مهما
أكيد
يكون.
أكيد صحيح.
شنو كان أنت إحساسك لما عفت بغداد وطلعت أو طلعت من العراق أخير ناس ما تهوش تميتها؟
والله يعني أنا شو أقول لك مثلا إنه أنت لحد الآن لحد إنه هاي اللحظة أنت مثلا تشتاق لإنه البغداد أو مثلا تشتاق لجماعتي مثلا. أنا بالنسبة لي أصدقائي عندي هواي ببغداد لحد الآن يتراسلون وياي ورسائلهم وأنت يعز علينا وفراقك وهاي. بس شو تسوي أنت تشوف ببغداد أنت ببيتك نايم ما مأمن. امان ماكو يعني احكي لك اياها صح وانت تعرف انت هذا الشيء. انت ببيتك نايم من بعد وين يعني اذا تطلع للشارع انت تقعد مثلا. انا بالنسبه لي بال 2013 11 صديق 12 واحد تقريبا خسرتهم بيوم واحد لي طق صار حادث من انفجار مال ابو طياره وكلهم راحوا بيد 12 واحد.
الله يرحمه
الجميع ان شاء
الله. زين نفس السؤال.
انا عن نفسي
صار لك شهر و15 يوم
صراحه عادي ولا مفكر برجعه لأن ماكو أي مستقبل للشاب هناك. أي مستقبل ماكو.
الله يساعدهم.
اهلا وسهلا كيفك؟
شلون تدار الطريق وياكم؟
والله مو زين.
ليش؟ تعبانين؟
Yesterday I think one woman died here and children naked and so on. But the main thing is that we need people to work here and we have many clothes here and maybe it would be better to donate some clothes later on in the winter when we need some, but we have many clothes here. We have little people here and the people here have been working for hours and hours and for days without sleeping or sleeping little, without taking shower, without, and so for all the other people who think about coming here and bringing clothes, it's better to send some money or to come here to work. Or to help to be a volunteer here. I've been here since Friday morning and I got 4 hours of sleep since then and now it's Sunday evening I think. I'm a little, tired. But I have to go home today because I have 3 children and I have work. I have to work tomorrow and I feel nearly embarrassed that I have to go home and I know this night will be hell again because during the day it's not so bad.
We are now just entering Chovanik. Yesterday there was
There's a border village between what, Jasim?
Serbia and look at
that's
this.
the camera crew.
It was between Serbia and Croatia. There was over 2,000 people and now you can see all these cameramen and these preparations here. First aid, you've got people over there. It's an area called Tovornik, I think it is. It's an area between Serbia and Croatia, and literally when we got there it was absolute chaos. Again, over 4,000 refugees just coming in. You can imagine the road between the two borders is very, quite narrow and it's very short, so it's not really big in terms of area, and you had so many people, everyone trying to get out, families, there was no translators, so police are trying to contain the situation, people are trying to get out. So it was, at that moment, I've never been in a situation like that. It was like, what do I do, kind of, but then you just really have to just get in there and just follow your instincts. We're at the border of Serbia and Croatia. Croatia is behind us. They're waiting now. They're going to take them in groups to camps, and then from the camps they take them to the train off
So who's
to
behind
Hungary.
you right now? What's going on right now?
So there's over 2,000 people, men, women, children. A lot of them haven't eaten.
It's very hard, very, very hard, especially like on the day of that night where we were between the borders. When it hit sunset, I mean, the drop in temperature was crazy. I don't know what the drop exactly was, but it was, I mean, during the day we were in t-shirts. At night, I was wearing 3 layers and still very cold. There wasn't enough blankets, there's no food, hardly any water. So you've seen all these families, children, mothers, pregnant ladies, and I mean, you're trying to help, but there's only so much you can do.
It's the flood of coaches. This wasn't here last night when it was freezing cold that people had to literally walk this road by foot from all the way from the Serbia to here. It was 16 miles and they had to do it all by foot, freezing cold, and it was just literally volunteer cars that took them into this border. So as we're leaving, thousands of people are coming, and it's just non-stop over here, non-stop on this border, and they're just trying to deal with this crisis as best as they can, but the people are just flooding in. All sorts of refugees from Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Sudan.
شباب اجلسوا حبيبي اجلسوا شباب اجلسوا اقعدوا كلهم اقعدوا يلا اجلس حبيبي يلا
2 days later, we went to again another area. It was called ABTV, where they closed the borders. So the legit borders, let's say. So people started taking the other routes. They're walking 16 kilometers from Serbia to this. There was like a kind of a camp in what we call ABTV. We went around 3 in the morning, and then you just see these families literally in the freezing cold, unable to walk, lying on the floor, or the one with the baby's just crying, and the mom's crying because she's lost her husband. The brother who's lost his other brother. It's just, I mean, crazy. It was very, very crazy. And the next day we went into the actual camp after speaking to the police. They didn't really let us in, and people hadn't eaten for over 10 hours. So you can imagine I had like a 4-year-old baby who hadn't eaten in God knows how many hours. And the dad actually wanting to kiss your hand, just please give me some hot water for my son. So I mean, all these scenes, I mean, you could say it's quite horrific. I had this one family with the siblings, was a boy and a girl, and they're both suffering with leukemia. He's coming all the way from Syria just to try and get to Germany because apparently there's a hospital there that I mean, specializes in leukemia. So I mean, you just really, really sympathize with these people.
Watching sunset, there's still over 1,000 refugees left. No tents, food is very scarce, water is very scarce. It's very, very desperate times. Everyone's panicking because they all want to get across. So there's becoming a lot of pushing and shoving. People are getting crumbled. Pregnant ladies. I mean,
So
you could
people
just
started
look.
to camp outside already.
Yeah,
now,
you could just look at all the rubbish everywhere. And that's the people. You can see them. I don't know how clear it is.
And that's where they're trying to reach. That's the end point. Just where them coaches are. And they're forming themselves into groups over here. Hopefully trying to make it for tonight into one of these coaches which are heading to Austria.
Your heart obviously goes out to them because, like, most of our parents were refugees when they came here, and they went through difficult times, living in hostels, living in God knows the end of the world. They did go through difficult times, but see what these refugees are going through, or these migrants are going through, where they're actually being put at gunpoint to get into rubber boats to cross from Turkey to Greece, or this person who his money got stolen, he put down a $5,000 deposit and the guy just ran off. Or they were in the actual boat, so many refugees, they were in the actual boat and then their boat actually capsized. They lost their passport, they lost their stuff, or they don't have any new clothes and all wet, or this person's brother drowned and died. So I mean, it is very, very distressing being there at the same time, because just hearing their stories and the agony and the pain they're going through just makes you to realize, like, they're willing to go through all of this to escape what's back home. So just trying to imagine what's going on back home, I mean, it's crazy, really.
We're now between the Serbian and the Croatian border. As you can see, actually, you probably can't see because it's so dark. It's nearly midnight, and there's approximately over 1,000 refugees stuck between the two borders. Not hardly any food, no blankets, water's scarce, toilets, forget about it. Children are actually freezing. There's no light. You could probably show them home. You could probably see that's the conditions they're trying to live in.
There's like over 1,000 people right now in this darkness, just over here.
Absolutely.
People fighting over numbers. Apparently they told them to make numbers of who's going to get into the coach first, and there's just havoc between Syrians and Iraqis, and it's just all sorts, and there's children.
ولا تخاف حتى اذا انت مسوي بصمه
اوكي حبيبي
من واحد مسوي بصمه ايوه بس تفوت على النمسا ومن بعد النمسا تتصل على الماي وبعد الله يكرمك تقدم لجوء المانيا قالوا هم 800,000 شخص هالسنه يقبلونهم.
Welcome to Croatia. This is a place called Opatović, just close to the Serbian border. The Serbian border has been open for the past day from this area, and people are being dropped off in buses and taxis at the Serbian border and are walking across to the Croatian border and being told to come to this camp. It's actually 16 kilometers down the road, so they have to walk. You can see it's cold, you can see when I'm breathing and it's dark, when I'm breathing the condensation's coming out of my mouth. It's freezing here at the moment. I know I'm in a t-shirt, it's because I'm walking around. But these people are cold and they're walking 16 kilometers alone, without any light, without any directions. And they're coming here and they're being welcomed by a lot of these volunteers. And you can see them, they're having to sleep on the grass. Can you imagine this? You don't know where you're going and you end up being sleeping on grass. You've been provided with blankets and you have to use your bags as the pillows. It's 1 a.m. here at the moment, so you can imagine what the feeling is like. I've just been down that road actually, seeing what the people are like, and they're coming in these groups, still coming, flooding into this country, and it's quite a difficult situation to watch. They're being brought over to this camp. It's like a military camp. If I can take you round to show you, it's almost, as in the word that I would use to describe it when I look at it, is I would say this is a prison. If you look at it, it's fenced off everywhere. That's the definition that I would use, prison. You can see it there, it's fenced off, and there are guards, police at each corner. The funny thing is, people are actually fighting to go in. You can see the queues. If we get closer, you'll be able to see more clearly. But you can see queues of people wanting to go in, and they're begging us to let them in as quickly as possible. They're being held there. I met one Iraqi family that managed to escape from here. They told me that they were here for 4 days and not being taken anywhere. They're being told they're only going to be held here for 24 hours, and then be put onto buses to be sent to a train station to move them ahead. They're waiting to get on a bus, and the bus takes them to a train station, which then takes them to Hungary or Slovenia, depending on which border is open. And after that, they'll be taken towards Austria. The one question that's on everybody's mind is, am I going to be registered and am I going to have my fingerprint taken? Okay, which is a very important question because their family may be in Sweden. If they have their fingerprint taken here, Sweden won't accept them.
There are trains running to the Austrian border every 20 minutes during the day. They get off at the last stop in Hungary, and they have to walk about 2 kilometers because Austria is not letting them cross into Austria to arrive to Vienna.
Is it Austria or Hungary that stop?
It's Austria.
Baby clothes? A lot. We don't need any more. We don't need any baby clothes. We have.
What I found very interesting about the people who donated was that many of them I had never met before, and many my wife had never met before. We didn't even know anybody. And somebody who donated £1,000 cash directly into my account, he wasn't even in the UK and I had never met him before. He said something interesting to me. He said, thank you for giving me an opportunity to do something for the refugees. I see you guys as a vehicle for me to act. Thousands, and we managed to collect in the space of just over a week, £14,000. And most of that money was from people I had never met before.
Oh, that's enough, please.
I think it's like astonishing that it's quite a negative effect that humanity has, for the fact that it took a picture of a drowning boy for us to wake up to a crisis that's been going on for years. Like the Syrian crisis itself has been going on for 5 years now, and crises around the world have been going for a lot longer.
شباب سووا طريق سووا طريق
ولو زحمة عليكم ولو زحمة عليكم سيارة جاية ولو زحمة عليكم دخلوا.
To actually get towards the Roszke camp, people were walking kilometers to cross that border from Serbia over in towards Hungary. And I think one of the things that tugs on the heartstrings is seeing the kids walking alongside their parents, who the parents are exhausted. Just imagine how the kids must have felt to walk that distance to get towards the camp. They get to the camp, there's a sense of relief that they receive when they get to the camp, but then when you realize that the camp is just this makeshift tent and these blankets that we've scrapped from somewhere and the lack of food, you then realize actually that relief wasn't necessarily a good thing. They were still trying to, in a transit place, they needed to move on to another place. I remember one guy that I was speaking to who was waiting for the bus to go, and he'd just was able to leave an ISIS territory in Syria, and he was a hairdresser, and he told me that he had the last string for him that forced him out of the country was outside of his barbershop, because if you can imagine a barbershop, they've got big windows so people can see from the inside. He could see as a hairdresser, he could see what was happening outside. And just 4 people from his community were just stood there in a line, and one of these men just came with a knife and just beheaded them right in front of his store. And he just broke down in tears when he told me that story, and there was nothing that I could do apart from actually offering him a shoulder to cry on. Literally a shoulder to cry on. And if you think about it, it's quite an emotional thing to realize that these people will never be able to go to their home country again. So if you could imagine wherever you're from, if you're from London, that you're told that you can never ever go back there, you'll never see your mother again or your son again or whoever it is that you've left behind. You'll never see your favorite cinema, your favorite bakery. You'll never be able to go to those places again. And that's what these people have left behind, because it's so dangerous for them to stay behind.
I felt very upset, I felt very angry, because it wasn't so much the fact that we had worked hard that night before. It really had nothing to do with us. It was all about the refugees. These guys had just been moved and been shifted to somewhere so quickly. They probably were woken up rudely in the middle of the night or very early in the morning to be loaded onto buses and just be dumped at the Roszke station.
Two from Syria. Seven. 3 adults, 3 kids.
So I felt quite annoyed to see the huge difference between what there was last night and what we saw the following day.
You let us know and we can take the stuff to wherever you need it.
My cell phone is broken and empty. Maybe you can Nick or the other guy with the hoodie organize coordinate tonight so you can talk with him.
What I've been told, every camp that's set up in Serbia, the police have shut it down. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've been told. But we've been recommended, two options that we have is to go to the police station, to the train station and drop stuff over there, or to cross over to Serbia and start handing stuff out over there.
The train station is supposedly needing support now, rather than the blankets.
All they've asked for is water, and I've sent loads of water there.
That's fantastic, yeah.
One person to go in the car with him. Okay, I'm happy to do that. Right. Go check over there. If we need more stuff, we'll say, come back. Everyone come. Bring water, bring this, bring that. So we're going to go in one car and take a small supply. Yeah. And join the rest of their group there. Yeah. And then if they need more stuff...
Where? Station?
Serbia.
The border?
In the border. In the meantime, you can go to the station and offload some of the stuff there.
All those in Britain, listen to this. These guys have just been amazing. Work. Nothing's been too difficult for them to do, whether it's a minor task or an important task like translation. You know, they have become brothers with us as pastors who have been working here, and it's been a privilege to know them. And I hope we can continue the relationship. We just ask in the name of Jesus that they will just have a great journey home.
Give them a hug, Alan. You're very kind, Mark.
You want to tell the people what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm writing a sign for people because tomorrow is Eid.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna put this sign to and give kids chocolate.
Perfect.
For Eid.
Nice work, man. So this is the sign, yeah?
Yeah.
Eid Adha Mubarak. And what other signs are you gonna make?
I'm gonna write كل عام وأنتم بخير.
Nice.
And الحمد لله على السلامة.
الله يسلمك إن شاء الله. حبيبي, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
عيد مبارك. عيد مبارك. عيد مبارك حجي. شتوري خوبي؟ لك قشنقة. عيد مبارك. عيد مبارك. كل عام وانتم بخير. بالفرمو. عيد
الزم هاي لا هات ماشي كم واحدة أخذت؟
The refugee crisis has been described as the largest migration movement since the Second World War. Hundreds of thousands of people in just 1 year are spilling into Europe, and this is causing a huge dilemma for Europe. There's no doubt about it. Until there is a political solution, then the refugees will keep being thrown left, right and centre and being sent in all different directions. If you were leaving your country, if you were fleeing war or fleeing very, very bad economic conditions, and you wanted to feed your family or you wanted to have a family and you fled, how would you like the world to react to you? The circumstances that they live in, what they had to go through to get to this point, you know that these people need help. If nobody helps them, they could actually die there and then. If the volunteers did not go and give them food, if they did not give them shelter, if they did not give them change of clothes, if they did not give them water, if this compassion wasn't there for them, they probably would die. They actually would die. because they have nothing else. At an individual level, the very least we can do is to exercise some level of compassion. We need to show compassion to these human beings. We cannot reduce them to simply statistics and numbers. As you see the train parting, it occurred to me while I watched it leave, these people had just boarded a train and they were heading towards the border between Hungary and Austria, but in reality, you don't know where they're actually heading in life.